All right, welcome back. Joining the program, Larry Dietz. He is the president of Illinois State University. Thank you very much for joining the program.
Real pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
All right, interesting time in Illinois because the state lacks a budget, something that you and other university presidents spoke out about last week in a letter calling on leadership. Tell us a little bit about that letter.
Well, a group of university presidents and chancellors have been meeting once a week via conference call really since about January. We have been offering testimony whenever we're asked to offer testimony and so forth. We felt it was time to send a letter to the governor and other top legislative leaders expressing our concern about the lack of funding and the need for more predictability in terms of our funding. So that was the gist of the letter.
You talk about unpredictability and a need for funding. What does that mean exactly? I mean, what can people at home take away from that? How is it impacting you on a day-to-day basis?
Well, it impacts each of the institutions a little bit differently, depending upon the strength of enrollment, which is a major financial driver anymore. And so it's difficult to say one size fits all because it really doesn't. The one size that does fit all is that we don't have funding yet, and it's difficult to be able to predict the future without some of the funding. In our situation, for example, at Illinois State, the state comes up with only 18% of the budget, but that 18% for us is about $75 million. And not having any of that or knowing whether or not it's going to be a third less of that, which is one proposal, or less than the third or whatever, just the unpredictability has students, in particular, I think, a tad anxious in terms of the MAP program because that's not been funded. And it has our faculty and staff, I'd say, across the state concerned about whether or not there are going to be layoffs and furloughs. In our situation at the university, we've not had any layoffs or furloughs, and we don't anticipate that occurring, but we would like to have a decision sooner versus later, and it's already later, so we really need some action on this.
It's very late. So how does the university go forward? I mean, you're about halfway through the first semester, and you've got a whole nother semester coming that, I mean, the two main semesters that a college has. So how do you handle that moving forward?
Well, in some respects, this is not new territory for us in that the state has done reimbursements after school has started, and they typically are late in reimbursing us. As a matter of fact, we just received FY15 last payment for last year, last month. And so the idea that it's on time all the time, it really isn't the case, but we've never been in this situation that I'm aware of that we are this late in knowing whether or not we have any funding at all. And it's that unpredictability, it's just very difficult to plan for the future.
It certainly sounds like it. So, like I mentioned, you're about halfway through this first semester. So, I mean, what's going right on campus right now? What can you maybe look to improve on as you go through the rest of the year?
Sure. Well, when I've been asked about this, I emphasize a couple of things. Number one is that we have input into what's happening in Springfield, but we obviously don't control that. And so we know people are working hard to try to come to some middle ground on this, and we hope that that happens again very soon. But the things that we do control are our planning processes. And we have excellent planning processes at the university, and I'm sure my colleagues across the state have the same thing at their institutions. And then we also control our attitude. And I guess I prefer to have a positive attitude, and whatever we will be awarded, whenever we will be awarded, we'll say thank you, and we will scale our plans to whatever that happens to be and move forward. University, Illinois State University, is doing well. We would do better with more predictability, but as I said, we're not laying off anybody or furloughing anybody, but we'd really like to know what our financial future is going to be from the state so we can plan accordingly.
Well, I'm going to be interested to hear more about that in the near future. Thank you very much for joining the program.
Thank you.
Illinois State University President Larry Dietz. Still ahead, Women in Leadership. Our panel is talking about the importance of educating girls. Plus, Planned Parenthood is fighting back, what the Women's Health Group is saying after its leader spoke on Capitol Hill.